Happy Valentine's month, everybody. I'm the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to share with you some of my favorite Valentine's Day episodes from TV shows or even movies. Not everything is all lovey-dovey. Sometimes Valentine's Days deal with heartache and everything. So, some episodes will be romantic and lovey-dovey, while others will be very sad and heart-wrenching and stuff. But love is love. It doesn't always come with smiles and giggles and glee. So I'm here today to talk to you about Legend of the Seeker Season 2 Episode 4, Touch. So I am now finally ready to start talking about Season 2 of Legend of the Seeker. And by skipping a couple of chapters because of the holidays with, Valentine's Day being today, and, Women's History Month being next month and stuff. So let me get you caught up on what's been happening in the past 3 episodes before I do a rundown review later on in time. So Richard has now found out that he is a Raw. He is related to Dark and Raw, and they want him to be the new king of the Har. He accepts, but then there's monsters coming out the underground. What happened when he killed Dark and Raw last season? His sword bust open the boxes of Orton, and it caused the veil to open up towards the underground, between the land of the living and the underground. So all these monsters and demons are coming out like their version of the underworld, and he has to stop them with his newfound army and everything. Well, the more Sith have turned on Kara from last season, who helped Richard save the world and everything and help kill Dark and Raw. So they beat the crap out of her and leave her stranded on the road to die. Richard and the Daharans find her, and she decides she's gonna help Richard get revenge on his sisters and stuff. Of course, Zed and Kaylin doesn't believe her, trust her, and all this other crap. Anyways, they defeat the monster thing, and he decides that he can't be a ruler because he has to seal the underworld, and to do that he has to find the Stone of Tears. So Kara decides she's gonna join the group, and now she's part of their merry little band. Unbeknownst to him, Dark and Raw is like a ghost in the underworld, and it's working now for the Keeper. So he makes Dark and Raw go to Richard in a dream, and he marks him with the markings of the Keeper, which is this talon mark hand thing on his chest. And so now they have to find the Stone of Tears. They find a dude named Flynn. He opens up this magical thing and has a rune on his hand that's supposed to open up the location of the Stone of Tears. Bailings are all the new rage in this season. Bailings are basically dead people who made a deal with the Keeper to live another day just to kill for him. So in order to live, they have to kill one person per day and stuff like that. And a lot of them be Dark and Raw former soldiers. So now you all caught up. Oh, and all the confessors are dead except for Kaylin, because all the more Sith kept them between season 1 and season 2. And that pissed Kaylin off the way she wanted to kill Kara, and yeah, so her sister's dead and she hates Kara. So now you all caught up. So this episode is really cool and everything. It's really dramatic. It really touches your heartstrings and everything. And there's some nice action here and there. With all the confessors being dead except for that of Kaylin, Kaylin is in desperate search for another one. But just like Kara told her, they're all dead. So of course Kaylin doesn't believe her. So they travel to where the land of the Night Wisp are so they can find another confessor. They eventually do find one, but only one. And she's a young princess hidden away in a castle in a tower. Why? Because the backstory is that her father used to be a Daharan soldier. until he was confessed by another confessor many years ago. Because of that, he left his girlfriend, a duchess. They gave birth to Annabelle, but the birth was so terrible that it killed the mother and stuff. And then once that happened, the father was free of confession because, in order to get out of it, you had to kill the confessor. Well, after he became like a Daharan soldier, he became a king of like a land. So he was so pissed, he ordered to have his ex-wife, the confessor, like eaten by the crows and everything. He was gonna kill the baby, but he decided not to. And so he kept her. But he knew she would be a confessor, so he didn't want no other man to be a slave like he was, like a love slave. So he had her hidden away in a tower. And she's lived there for over 15, 16, 17, no, I think 18 years. Or 17, because I think she says she's almost an adult. And so she's been there for like 17 years, and she's never left that room. Like never seen any part of the castle, never went outside. But he loves her, but he's just scared of her touch, which is why the episode is called Touch. Now, Kaylin doesn't know all this, and Richard and stuff. So when they go to find her, they assume she's just prisoner in like a castle. And so, but they have to get Flynn to Pamar. Now, Flynn is like a con artist, thief type person. He lies, he steals, this and that. He's much different in the books. But he has the rune attached to his hand, and it's magical. You can't get it off. And it's the only thing to unlock, like, the location of, like, the stone. So what happens is Zed and Card, they go to Pamara to check out, like, make sure everything's safe when it comes to get the stone. And so the rest of the group goes to the castle. What I like about this episode is very innocent, very loving and stuff. The actress who plays Annabelle does a great job. She's from Friday Night Lights. She was the opening kill in Scream 4. Not sure what she's doing now, but she's a phenomenal actress and she should be in more stuff. It really bugs me when they don't hire people who are actually talented and they keep hiring all these like reality stars and internet personalities and stuff like that, singers and wrestlers. That really pisses me off. And and the thing I love about like the Annabelle character is she's very hopeful. One day she hopes to travel the world. She hopes to fall in love. She's never fallen in love. She's read so many stories, about like people falling in love and princesses and princes and stuff like that. But her father tells her literally that will never happen for her. Like she is so amazed when she sees the night wisp. Like, she's not even scared of it. She's just in awe because she hasn't seen much of like nothing. She just stays in her room. She eats, she reads, she sews, and like that's literally it. And that sucks. Like she's a prisoner in her own home and she has no idea she's a confessor. And so like before Richard and them can get to her, there's like a servant who poisoned the king's food. And then she tells Annabelle, oh, it's just a sleeping potion. I'm going to take you around the world. And so Annabelle, so gullible, just goes with this woman, right? And so when Richard and them show up, they learn that Annabelle doesn't even know she's a princess. And then like, the maid lady tells, the backstory I just told you. So they have to go look for her. The question is, where is she? And where did that other servant take her? Well, the servant lady with the bodyguard took her to a sorcerer. Not a wizard, but a sorcerer. He's just a regular man who does like parlor tricks. And he has an army of men. He has Aquilian, which I told you about last season. Basically, he wants to steal her powers and stuff. And so he uses the Aquilian, takes a sample of her magic, puts it like some magical stuff, and then he puts like a pin drop, and then he pokes the bodyguard of like the servant lady to see if it works, and it does. He literally has the touch of a confessor and a pin. And so he orders the bodyguard to kill like the servant lady. So he does, and then as soon as he can take the rest of the magic from that girl, in comes Richard and Caitlin, and it's an awesome fight. I really love the action in this. And so they tell Annabelle to run, and so she does. She runs outside, but she trips and she falls. Next thing you know, Flynn is in a tree and ambushes one of like the bad guys and everything. He saves her, and she is like all like shocked and amazed. Like she's fallen in love with Flynn at first sight. Plus he saved her. Cause you know how it is. It's like she's never seen like she's literally never seen another person except for like two of the servants and her father. And so she's mesmerized by like this guy, and she thinks he's a prince from like one of her stories. And so something possesses her to want to touch the side of his face, because she's just like, she's never had these feelings before. And can you imagine like, being like, deprived and seeing somebody for the first time, and then it's like the first person you see you just like fall in love with, only because it's the first person you see, because you never seen another person before. And that would be like agony. So it reminds me of the 40-year-old virgin, that movie and stuff. And so, but then she touches him for too long, and because she can't control her power, it can come out at any time, any way you touch a person, kissing, like whatever. So she's holding on too long, and all of her, like, I guess you could call like erotic urges or whatever are coming out, and it unleashes her power, and she confesses Flynn. Richard and Caitlin sees this because the sorcerer got away, and so they stop her, and she doesn't understand why he's looking like a zombie and keeps calling her his mistress and stuff. So they have to inform her of what she is, and then sadly tell her the truth about her father dying and stuff. And so because of this, now Flynn is like a love slave and everything. And he won't let nobody agitate like, Annabelle. Because, once they told her her father's dead, she's upset. So that pisses him off. He's like, you're upsetting my mistress and everything. And so they have to like camp out and wait for like Zed and Kara to come back. And Kaylin is devastated because she feels bad, because it's not Annabelle's fault, you know what I'm saying? But she feels bad for Flynn because she's never ever bothered to ask if his family's still alive, what he did before they met him and everything, because he's been traveling with them for like at least 2, maybe 3 days or something. And she's never even bothered to get to know the dude, she just saw him as someone they needed to open like a box or whatever. And so they literally wonder what they're gonna do, but they know they have to get the Pomar and stuff. Well, as Flynn and like Annabelle are talking, she's falling madly in love with him, and she's loving the attention that like he's giving her and stuff. But then he tells her he knows Richard and Caitlin, they're never gonna stop looking for them, because he wants to take her around the world, but he knows he has to unlock that magic thing so they can get the Stone of Tears. And he thinks maybe they should like stay with them, but he comes up with a plan. He pretends to be ambushed and has an arrow stuck in like his shoulder. So Richard and Caitlin, they fall for the bait looking for the bad guys, and then Flynn and Annabelle leave on both horses. And now Caitlin is even more pissed because she's all like, she should have like, kept them separate and stuff like that. So they have to wait for Zed and Kara. Well, Zed and Kara, they go to Pomar and they see tons of people running, and they don't understand why. So when they talk to like this priestess lady, she tells them that like the Dark and Raw put some guards around like, the podium to where the Stone of Tears is supposed to be. But those soldiers later died from the villagers. Next thing you know, those same soldiers rose from the dead. And why? Because they're Bailings. So they take out all the soldiers with wizard's fire. Well, Zed's wizard fire. But he still doesn't trust, like, Carr. And, she literally tells him, Richard accepts her. Why can't you and, like, Kaylin do it, And so, like, these two are gonna have like butt heads for a couple episodes and stuff. Well, back with Flynn and what's the name? Annabelle. Flynn is having second thoughts, but Annabelle makes him press on. And then she's hungry, so they find some food, like a pig roasting. So they go to eat it, but it belongs to a band of men. So they fight, and then next thing you know, she ends up confessing all of them. When Kaylin and Richard show up, they are shocked and surprised to find out Annabelle now has an army of men she confessed. She is now using her power at will because she knows she can get what she wants now. And she literally tells Richard and Kaylin, you leave me alone, my new friends are going to hurt you and everything. Like, she's at the point where she no longer cares because she just wants to be free. And as long as she knows she can bend people to her will, then, like, it's all good for her. So, of course, Richard and Kaylin, they fight the men. But then Annabelle is told by Flynn, Richard and them are never going to stop pursuing us. She does the craziest thing ever because she's just a young girl, almost an adult. And she's just like, learning things for the first time. And she's learning the world for the first time. And she just wants to be free. All she wants to do is be free and fall in love. So she confesses Richard. And Kaylin is beyond devastated because she knows Richard can no longer complete any of his mission as like the Seeker because he's now a love slave. So once all the men are dead, Kaylin tries to kill Annabelle, but Richard won't let her. And so at some point, Kara and Zed shows back up. It's now morning, and they're discussing what they should do. And so, what is it? Zed puts both Flynn and Richard in the wizard's web. It's like a force field. They can't move, and then here comes Kaylin with her dagger, ready to slit the throat of Annabelle. And so Richard is pleading with Kaylin not to kill Annabelle. And she tells him she has to because Richard needs to be who he is to complete his mission. And I feel bad for Annabelle because she never asked for none of this. And she even said so. She's a scared young person. First she's lived her life, isolated. Then when she finally gets out in the outside world, everybody wants to kill her and stuff. And she literally tells Kaylin she just wants to fall in love, be married, and live a loving life. And she hopes to do it with Flynn. But Kaylin tells her you can't take Flynn as a mate even though he is confessed. And then Kaylin tells how confessors do what they do. And how they take mates. They take mates with bad men who are strong and powerful, and then they create babies from them to continue their line of confessors and stuff. And so she's upset, talking about she can marry nobody she can love and stuff like this. So she is extremely confused and just acting out and stuff. And when you think about a confessor, what they do is they take men against their will. That is not consensual whatsoever. Not just now realized this after so many years of watching this show. And yeah, I just now realized that. And it does have to suck not being able to marry who you want. And if you touch somebody, they will fall in love with you. And for some reason she loves that Flynn though, boy. First love at first sight. And so Richard's all what about the sorcerer's Quillian? What if you take the power out of Annabelle? Because Annabelle didn't know she can't just, give a person back their free will and stuff. And she didn't know in order to get out of confessing, you have to die. And so Zed thinks that's possible. If she no longer has magic, then she shouldn't be able to control it and stuff. So they have to go find the sorcerer now. But, they still have to get that, whatever it is, the Stone of Tears thing. So first they go to Pomora and everything. And Flynn, he holds his hand up and it glows and it finally opens up like a pillar. Inside that pillar, my God, it's a dead body. It's nothing but bones and like ratty clothes and stuff. See, the monk, he had to keep the Stone of Tears hidden from everybody. So when they built that pole, the pillar and stuff, he climbed inside and kept the stone close to him to his chest. So they take the locket off, but Kaylin and Zed don't want them to open it up until Richard's back to his right mind. So now they have to find the sorcerer, because if they don't, Carter has literally said she's gonna kill Annabelle and everything. But then Kaylin had a change of heart and she's all like, Richard showed you compassion back when you killed my sister and I wanted to kill you and stuff like that. So they have to get a ruse, make up a ruse to get the Krillian. So since the sorcerer wants confessors and Kara is a more Sith, she has decided that she's gonna take in Kaylin but bruise her all up. So she takes her to jail and she presses it against Kaylin's temple, causing a big red bruise, and it is painful to watch. So after that, they trick the sorcerer and the men, and they kill everybody, and then they confess the sorcerer. They take the Krillian, and then they take out the magic from Annabelle. As this is happening, she's talking to Kaylin and crying, because she's all like, once this happened, Flynn will no longer love her, and she just wants to love Flynn and everything, and and she's scared that she'll never be able to find another guy to fall in love with. Dude, she's super hot and she's a princess. Trust me, somebody's gonna fall in love with her. Well, they absorb all the magic out of her and everybody's back to normal. But Flynn is still in love with her. But for reals this time. Because he's been hanging out with her and she's so hot and everything, he decides he'll travel with her around the world and visit his cousin and all this other stuff. But she doesn't want her power no more as a princess. So she's not going back to the castle because she's lived there her entire life. So they depart. And, Flynn is all like, I can't say it's been fun, but it's been interesting hanging with you people. So Richard finally opens the locket and the stone, it looks like this the Stone of Tears, but it's not. It's a compass and everything. And the compass keeps glowing in certain directions, which means it's leading him to the Stone of Tears. But it also leads him to other things he needs to do to be a seeker, like save, villagers and stuff like that. So it's going to take a good long while before he can find that stone. So that's what the entire season is about. Him with his friends, his compass, and him going from one town to another, saving people, looking for the stone. But like I said before, this is a really cool episode. It's touching, there's nice action, there's lots of character development, there's tons of drama. This was a really thought out episode. Now, one interesting thing that happens in this episode that I didn't point out is that when Richard was still confessed, Annabelle ordered him to make love to Kaylin so that she could have a child because, there are no more confessors and stuff. And so she didn't want to do it, but Zed's all like, you have to carry on the line. So they go into the woods and they are making out about to do it and everything. And this is something she's always wanted and he's always wanted, but he doesn't want it no more because he is confessed and he's in love with Annabelle. So when she asks him as they're making out and everything, what are you thinking about? And he's all like, pleasing you. And he's all like, why? Because your mistress ordered you? And he's like, yeah. So then she makes him stop. And she realizes that she can't do this against his will, which is funny because that's what confessors do anyway to men. But she can't do it to Richard because she's actually in love with Richard. And she would never want him to do something against his will and give him a child that he doesn't want to take care of. And so as badly, and I mean badly, as she wants it, she just can't go through it. Now, of course, if he wasn't confessed, he would totally go for it and stuff. But, just like in the first season, those two can never be together because of her power and stuff. And I do love the idea that she has so much restraint that she couldn't go through it, because she could have went through with it, but she decided not to. And that really tells what kind of noble woman she is, that like even something so badly she wants and knows deep down inside he wants, if he was normal, she just couldn't go through with it. And in the end, Annabelle got her wish. She got to really fall in love with somebody for reals this time. And Flynn finally found somebody with his little thieving self. And like I said before, I feel for Annabelle. Like, you can't not, like, even when she does bad stuff, you get why she does it. You know what I'm saying? And so you don't feel that bad for her, like, oh, she's a bad person, but you feel bad for her, like, you know what I'm saying? Because could you imagine being in her shoes, being that young, and all this craziness happening to you within like a day's time? But I still can't imagine being locked in one room, being a prisoner in your own home. Like, her father did love her, that's the thing, but he was scared of her. Man, I don't know, but this is why I miss this show so much. Now, wasn't that romantic? Or depressing, depending on what kind of video I just talked about. Okay, well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And bye.